Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good to have you here with us this evening. I'm Faria, a health and wellness coach, and I have with me my co-host Ruqayya. She'll be introducing herself just after me. So yeah, I'm a certified health and wellness coach. I'm also studying nutrition. And we've been looking at Unani Tibb for the last few weeks, and it's just been an absolutely eye-opening topic for myself. So we covered like an introduction into Unani Tibb, and we also did a couple of sessions on like the hot and cold temperaments. These are all uploaded on my YouTube channel, which is Organic All Round. I'll put that in the chat box in a moment. And you can catch them there, inshallah. So if this is a topic that is new to you and you don't really understand much of it, then I strongly advise you to go back, because Ruqayya went into a lot of detail. Ruqayya went into a lot of detail in regards to Unani Tibb. That is her speciality. Allahumma barik alayha. And yeah, so we went into like the actual principles regarding it, and we thought it would be just so you have kind of some practical tips to take away. We'd go through like a daily meal plan, and obviously there's going to be varying temperaments in one household. So how can you then tailor that one meal? Because look, let's face it, we have not got time to make 3 different meals to suit 3 different temperaments. I mean, it's just not going to happen, just in terms of like husband, kids, and that kind of thing. So what are small tweaks you could do here and there, to suit the temperament of that child, so you're actually nurturing them on a really holistic level, and just healing them from just the food that you have every day without making it really difficult for yourself. Because, I'm busy just like you all, and, just these small little things can make a bit of a huge difference, in terms of the behavior, in terms of, maybe even how they're digesting food. So that's what we really wanted to go into today, how you can just apply these principles on a day-to-day basis. Assalamu alaikum, Ruqayya. If you'd like to introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about yourself, and just let's dive into it, inshallah.
I'm Jazakillah Khair and Faria for the introduction, and it's brilliant to have all you sisters here today, and inshallah I ask Allah to make this beneficial and to make my tongue and my speech clear, so that you may all benefit bi'idhnillah. Okay, so we did speak about various temperaments and how they vary, and how food can support your temperament and preserve your temperament and maintain it as well. Ideally, we want to eat foods that support our temperament individualistically, and I put together a few meals that vary in its ingredients that can suit one's temperament. So what I did today is I put together quite like 4 different versions of meals, and within these versions as well, you can incorporate it in one by adding certain things at the end. For, let's say you have 2 children of different temperaments, you can omit or add certain things at the end. So you can't omit things at the end, of course, but you can just add it, and hopefully in that way you can nourish the child to suit their own temperament, and inshallah I hope that we can get through this today, and if not, then inshallah we can continue. Okay, so me and Farah did put together just basic meals that we thought you guys most people enjoy. So for breakfast we suggested maybe oatmeal and eggs, or eggs, let's say, soup for lunch, or perhaps a sandwich, roast chicken with a side dish, and or meat curry. Any curry, doesn't necessarily have to be meat, but any type of curry. So I'm going to start with the sanguine, and as we know, sanguine is a blood temperament, and this temperament is a hot and moist one. Yeah. So as we said, in order to preserve someone's temperament, they need to eat foods with the opposite quality. So if a sanguine person is hot and moist, then they would need to eat a cold and dry food, or cold and dry foods, in order to keep their moisture and their heat at bay. So, so in terms of porridge or oatmeal, a good way to help a sanguine individual would be barley, so barley porridge, yeah, or something, or talbina, as we might know that this is a food from Prophet's medicine. And talbina is an excellent food for a cold and, sorry, for a sanguine individual. It's cooling and it's drying. Yeah, so it's an excellent way to complement that temperament. Oats are generally warming, so oatmeal is fine as long as we add bits and bobs to cool it down, yeah, to cool the person down. So and to dry them as well. So an oatmeal porridge or oatmeal, or even barley meal or talbina would be great. It's important to incorporate things like some fruits, yeah, for a salmon. So sour fruits, so maybe some strawberries, some raspberries, some blackberries, and what this will do, this will engage the individual to dry out the excess moisture. So some oatmeal with some fruits, yeah, on dry fruits on top, yeah. That's a great one. That's a great way, or great breakfast for a sanguine. There is an additional thing that I would say as well. Some sesame oil, yeah. And the reason why I'm saying that is sesame oil is quite drying. It's quite hot. I'm not gonna lie, but if we're having oatmeal with milk, yeah, milk is quite moistening, isn't it? So you would want to dry that moisture out and counteract that. So sesame oil would be a great addition to kind of like really truly like dry out that moisture from the milk. Some people enjoy milk in their oatmeal. Some people enjoy water. Yeah. So if we remove the water, if we remove the milk, then that will help sanguine temperament, because it will reduce the moisture. Yeah. So yeah, so that would be for like a sanguine. And if you want to like heat that up, yeah, if you want to heat that up for your child, let's say one of your children is a cold and dry temperament, is the melancholic, yeah. Then what we want to do is we would want to add some, that's maybe a dash of black pepper, yeah, to warm it up a little bit. Black pepper is quite drying. However, if we add that to the porridge, then inshallah that will warm it up. Yeah. So we can add a bit of a dash of black pepper. I just got a message on the group and I completely forgot to introduce myself, girls. Apologies. So my name is Ruqayya. I am training in naturopathic nutrition and Unani medicine. I have a hijama clinic in North London called the Serenity Clinic, where I support ladies in their health, in general nutrition advice, and general wellness advice as well. I do see clients there as well, and I'm just working on my thesis. So I take advantage of all my hijama clinic, all my hijama clients, and I just enjoy the experience and enjoy meeting new people and really helping people within their health issues, because I myself suffered from something a few years ago, and it was a very hard time I had. And through that experience, I studied. I got into this course, studying for 3 to 4 years, and alhamdulillah, I've been looking up since. So I like to share my experience and really and truly help the ladies in their nutrition, because a lot of us, especially our communities, whether our Muslim communities, wherever country you're from, I feel like we lack in the basic things that we can do to help our health, to complement our health, like food and nutrition, and some certain illnesses and certain conditions are due to deficiencies that have gone out for too long. People may be deficient from a certain nutrient for so long, and it turns into something else. And if we dealt with that, dealt with the underlying issue and really and truly nourish the body and give it what it needs, we can help our health prosper and succeed. There are also a lot of emotional health issues that cause emotional conditions or traumas that cause disease and illness, and we deal with that as well. And we try to hit it on the nail and really delve into root issues through consultations, through physical examinations like pulse taking, iridology, and so on and so forth. And I'm gonna just stop here, inshallah, and just continue. And if anyone wants to contact me, please do on the Ceremony Clinic on Instagram, and I've got an email address as well, theceremonyclinic@gmail.com. Yeah. Okay, girls, I'm going to continue.
Yeah,
inshallah.
sorry, Ruqayya, just to kind of interject there just quickly. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, I mean, we have these sessions every Saturday evenings. It's usually around 6 p.m. UK time. And we usually live via Zoom, Facebook, and also Clubhouse. The room is called Easy Health Gains. So you're more than welcome to give us a follow on each of them, and you'll be notified, inshallah, when we do go live, but usually Saturday evenings. And the amazing thing about, what I'm interested in also, Ruqayya, is, with health, it's not just like a one method approach, and then we're all individual, and we're all, when you're looking at health, as Ruqayya was mentioning, there's so many factors to it. It's not just like what you eat or how you're feeling right now, or, it's a combination of things. And that's why we need really a holistic approach, which looks at many things at the same time. So inshallah, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, you can improve your health. And that's what we're all about. So yeah, Ruqayya, if you just want to carry on. And I just had one question, just in regards to what you were saying to the oats. What does it say in Unani Tibb, if there is anything? Does it make a difference if the oats are, say, prepared in a certain way? Because obviously for us, I like them to be easy to digest, so I know soaking the grains are going to help to do that. And now you're using obviously water, and they're going to become moist, right? And obviously cold, obviously you heat it up sometimes, or you may have overnight oats and you may not heat it up. Does that actually make a difference? Does it say anything in United about soaking and preparing grains in any way?
Yes, definitely. So in general, soaking grains are said to be beneficial. Due to my my non-Unani experience, I've always known that, and I feel like there's more out there in terms of the nutrition world, about soaking. Soaking and the benefits of what it does. However, within Unani Tibb, soaking is also something that is promoted, especially grains, lentils, and so on and so forth. So it is something that is recommended in Unani medicine. But what happens is, with soaking, of course, it does moisten the oats, but it at the same time makes it easily digestible. So there is a great benefit, but it's what you add to the oats that gives it its property. So oats itself is generally warming. It's a warming grain, but it's how it's what you add to it that can accentuate the temperament that you want it to be. So if we were to use oatmeal, we can I would say manipulate it or change it in a way that suits us. So I think I mentioned earlier that for a person of a warm temperament, sanguine, I think I mentioned that, sanguine. So we would add barley would be a great option than oats for a sanguine. I said that a dash of sesame oil in the oatmeal itself would be drying, and that would benefit if you was to use milk in the porridge or the oatmeal. And the sour fruits on the side, raspberries and strawberries and any sour fruits that can go well with that. Okay, in terms of
just in regards to the fruits, does it make a difference if they're fresh or dry?
Yes, it does. So fresh fruits. Okay, so dry fruits in general are obviously drying, they're dehydrated, right? and then the fresh fruits is more moistening. However, some fruits, when they're dried, become a little bit hotter, right? So in general, though, with oatmeal, I would say for a sanguine, I would say fresh raspberries and strawberries would be fine. Okay, so in terms of eggs, if you used to have eggs, for example, I would, let's say you want to have an omelette, yeah? Having an omelette for a sanguine individual, I would say maybe some omelette with some zucchini. Zucchini is a cooling vegetable. That's great for sanguine. So some zucchini, some spinach, they're cooling as well, and some green salad. And remember this, that any green leafy vegetables in general, obviously there are a few that have a different temperament, but in general, green leafy vegetables are very cooling. So they will be brilliant for sanguine. Some general spice, so like what I would say is dry spices, so spices that would dry you out. So green chili is very drying. It's hot, but it does have a drying, I think it's drying quality. The degree of its drying is much more than the heat. So if you were having cooling, if you were having like a green salad, or you have an omelette with a lot of cooling vegetables, I think a bit of green chili, I would say, will help dry out your moisture, any excess moisture that you may have, you know, and a sanguine individual carries a lot of moisture, isn't it? So yeah, that's what I would say, but maybe a dash of green chili to spice it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to lunch. Yeah, so if you was to have soup, yeah, what kind of soups would be great for a sanguine? So I would say some zucchini, as I said earlier, zucchini, carrots, mushroom, lentils. Lentil soup is brilliant for a blood temperament. Very cooling, very nourishing to the blood, and it's all around like a really good meal. Lentil soup is brilliant for sanguine. What would be excellent for them as well is, you know, adding a little bit of dried spices, like black pepper, because it's very, it's quite drying. There is a degree of heat, but it's black pepper's drying quality as well. So adding a bit of that. Salt is good as well. Obviously the salts my favorite is pink Himalayan salt, and adding salt is really good for moisture, because you know, because salt generally kind of breaks down mucus, you know, so salt would be an excellent. And remember, mucus is a moistening, you know, particle, or not particle, but moistening fluid. So salt would be excellent. Black pepper and salt would be great for that. Lemon, so adding lemon to your soups, that'll be good. Remember, sour things are really good for a blood temperament, so adding a bit of lemon, citrusy, sumac. Sumac is quite a citrusy, you know, spice, citrusy herb, and that'll be a great addition as well. If you were to have a sandwich, let's say for lunch, like sourdough bread, bread is generally cool. It's quite generally quite cooling. So like a bread, sourdough bread, chicken, any proteins that you enjoy. In terms of sanguine though, chicken is warming. However, it's less hot than it's less warming than lamb, let's say. So that would be a good option. Some sourdough bread. Yogurt sauce, or maybe a yogurt mint sauce. Remember, yogurt is sour, and it's also it's like a cold food as well. Yeah, so that'll be a brilliant way to incorporate into your meal. I know that in certain cuisines, like in Southeast Asia, they do yogurt sauce, isn't it, with mint. I don't know what it's called, but this is something that is enjoyed within Southeast Asian culture, and it's a brilliant condiment for a sanguine individual. Cucumber as well, adding cucumber to your wraps or your sandwiches, it's brilliant as well. It's very cooling, and as I said, leafy vegetables, you know, and a sanguine temperament is really great for them to have like leafy vegetables. It's a really good addition to your diet in general every day, you know. So for dinner, if you wish to have some sort of like roast chicken, say, or any roast that you would enjoy, spices that you add makes the difference, makes it either to complement your temperament or to make your temperament the opposite of your temperament. Or sorry, opposite of temperament is what we want. What I mean is it might have given a negative effect. So the spices and what you add to that roast or add to that whatever you're putting in the oven would be great. I remember roasting is drying, isn't it? Yeah. So that would be great for moist temperament. So sanguine is a moist temperament. So roasting would be actually great for sanguine. Yeah, because you're kind of like dehydrating things. Okay. So if you was to say you have a roast, I would say add some chili. Yeah, green chilies, quite very drying. Yeah. Dry coriander. Thyme would be great. Tamarind. So tamarind is very sour. Yeah, very, very sour. And that's brilliant for a sanguine temperament. It's quite cooling and it's drying. And so are vinegars. Yeah. So if you was to add vinegars, vinegar within your seasoning on top of the chicken or whatever you're roasting, then that would be really good for cooling and drying out the temperament. Yeah. Salt, as I said, salt is good. And again, a leafy green salad. Yeah, that's brilliant for sanguine. Okay, if you was to have a curry, let's say, which is something that quite a lot of us enjoy within our households, for a sanguine, I would say quite, as I said, leaner proteins, leaner foods like fish, like white fish. It's quite cooling. Turkey, chicken is better. It's preferably over lamb due to its temperament. Lamb is much more heating, and chicken is cooler than lamb. So if you was to have, let's say, a curry, and you choose fish, turkey, or chicken, then tomato base is good because tomato is cooling and drying. Yeah, and we want to cool down the moisture and cool down the heat of a sanguine. Spicy, dried spices, because dried spices are generally dried. They're already like drying. And fresh spices like fresh ginger would have more moisture than dry ginger, isn't it? So using dry spices would be beneficial. As I said, tamarind, citrusy, lemon, lime, these would be brilliant to put in your curry. Yogurt, yogurt is quite sour. And it's sour milks or sour dairy things like yogurt would be brilliant. They're quite yogurt does have a lot of moisture, but in generally the principle is that it's quite cooling and it's really good for a sanguine. So yogurt in your curry. So there's certain breads that are quite cooling that you can eat on as a chapati basically. And they are like, I don't know how, so certain cultures, I know like in certain African cultures, they do have cornbread. And corn is quite, obviously non-GMO corn. It's quite cooling. Millet is quite cooling as well. So millet bread. Rice, basmati rice is not cooling. However, there's difference of opinion with that. There's different schools of thought in Unani medicine as well. But basmati rice it's said to be quite warming. So if you were to like cool it down, basmati rice, cool it down with maybe some spices, like maybe some cumin or spices of the sort of cooling spices that we went through last time, our last lesson, then that would be fine as well, as long as the curry itself is quite cooling. Yeah. I mean, if you like a spicy curry and you're a sanguine, then that's fine. But just make sure that you add other things within the curry, like yogurt, like tamarind, to counteract that. Yeah. And if you're catering to multiple families, as we all within one household have different temperaments, then I would say like add things to it, to give it its moisture. So if you let's say if your husband is a person of a phlegmatic temperament, so a cold and moist person, and you were to make a spicy curry, you know, to kind of like warm him, spice him up, you know, and try him out, then I would say, you know, you could, within your dish that you're making, or the dish that you're eating, so your plate, I would say like just add a bit of yogurt, you know, on your dish, add more yogurt in there to really, really cool it down, yogurt and mint sauce mix, and put it in your dish, literally next to the curry. And that's the type of thing that I would do, and personally, to kind of like cool down my dish if it's too hot. And yeah, so these are, so this is just simple. This is simple alternatives for sanguine temperament. So for a cleric, so a cleric is a hot and dry temperament, and what we want to do is we want to cool them down, and we want to add moisture. Yeah. I think I didn't mention the different oils, because a sanguine person is hot, is a warm person, a warm or moist individual. The oils that you'd cook or you'd use preferably would be cooling oils, like coconut oil. Yeah, coconut oils, it's quite cooling, and I would say in general that would be great. Yeah, butter as well. Butter is good. So if you're making an egg, you know, scrambled egg, I would say use butter because it's cooling. Yeah, so butter, coconut oil, and they would be great options. Yeah, avocado oil, I'm not sure. I don't recall the temperament of avocado oil. I'm gonna have to look into that, but avocado oil is a good oil as well. But in general, cooling oils, I would say coconut oil, butter. Those two are quite the ones that I would use basically for if I'm making a dish, you know. So yeah, that would be great for sanguine. Yeah. Okay, so for a cleric temperament, what do we eat for breakfast? So if you're gonna have oats, as I said already, oats is quite warm. The grain oats is warm. Soak it. Soaking is great for your digestion. And I would say if you're cleric, then you want to add some moisture as well as some cold or some cooling aspects to your food, isn't it? So I would say add some figs. You want to have some figs. You want some milk. Yeah, we want some milk. We want more milk than you would do for any other temperament. Yeah. Why do you want more milk? Because milk is cold and moist. Yeah. So if you're making porridge, and let's say you made porridge for a sanguine, yeah, oatmeal for a sanguine, you maybe add milk because you prefer it with milk. Some people don't like it with water. Yeah. But water would be better if you've got a moisture temperament. But let's say you like milk, yeah, you would add less milk for the sanguine and you'd add more for the cleric. You'd add additional milk for the cleric, yeah. And this is because we want to add moisture. They're generally dried out. They're generally dry people, yeah. Generally have dry skin, quite lean, and we want to add that aspect, you know, that fattening, moisturizing aspect. So we'd add extra milk for the oatmeal, for the cleric. Figs, pears, yeah, even coconut milk. Coconut milk is quite cooling and moistening and is excellent for cleric, yeah. Banana is quite good as well. It's quite cooling and moistening as well. So adding some banana on top. Cinnamon is always good. Cinnamon is generally warming, but it's always good to add. I would say it's not too warm, it's not too hot, so cinnamon would be great. And you know, maybe you could add a bit of coconut oil, you know, to add that extra, give you that extra fat. You know, we know that coconut oil has it's a brilliant source of good fats, you know, and that would be a good option. Coconut is really good for the cleric, yeah. And if you was to have eggs, if you was to say you don't want oats, you want some eggs, then I would also say butter, you know. So I did mention that sanguine can benefit from butter, right? But the cleric would need more butter, so you'd add a bit more for the cleric. Sprouts, you know, if I'm making some scrambled eggs, eat with some sprouts on the side. It's quite cooling and moistening. Fresh cucumber, greens, fresh coriander on top, some salt and pepper as well to kind of like warm up the dish. Maybe a cleric person doesn't really need that much black pepper, but in general, just for taste, it won't do any harm, and it would actually help facilitate good digestion. So yeah, that would be good. We don't want to add too much salt for the cleric, yeah. And as I said, salt is quite it's quite drying, isn't it? Yeah. So the sanguine person might benefit from an extra salt, whereas a cleric person won't. Yeah. So just minimal salt, inshallah. And coriander is brilliant. Coriander, fresh coriander as well, fresh from the shop, fresh from the market, brilliant. It's cooling and moistening, which is a great addition for the cleric. Yeah. Okay. For lunch, if we wish to have a soup, as I said earlier, for the cleric, yeah, spinach, pumpkin, sweet potato, zucchini, similar to sanguine, would benefit them as well. And eating these type of vegetables. And our last Zoom or our last lesson, I did go through a lot of vegetables that were quite cooling and drying for the cooling, moistening for the cleric. I did go through that. I'm not going to go through all of it, but these are just some. So zucchini, pumpkin, sweet potato, butternut squash. These are really moistening vegetables. And they're brilliant for the cleric, especially if you add a bit of cream. I know some soups, they do add a bit of cream, and this is good. This cream is cooling and moistening, and it will benefit the cleric. It will increase to cool them down, and it will give them some moisture, which is brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so a roast, if you was to make any specific type of roast, then I would say preferably for the cleric, I would say roasting is drying, isn't it? So I would say maybe do some stews. Stewing would be better. It would complement your temperament. Not to say that you can't roast. Go ahead, it's absolutely fine. But I would say stewing, yeah. And the general principle when it comes to Unani medicine is it's not good to have we enjoy cooked meals that are generally have warming spices because that helps digestion. It's a very important part of food, is having that digestive fire, and eating warming foods or warm foods in general. With any temperament, eating warm foods is good, but it's what you the certain ingredients that you add to it that can suit your temperament, right? So when it comes to cleric though, stewed food would increase them in their moisture. We want that moisture, that stewing, that gravy, and that's what we're looking for, yeah. And that water, or that stew, I don't know how to describe it, but that consistency, that's what we need. Thick stews are really good, and any spices like fresh ginger, that would be good, because ginger is excellent for digestion, but we want the fresh version, right? Because it's got its juices. The fresh ginger comes with juices, and that's the moisture. We want the moistured version of the spices. So fresh ginger would be great. And if you were catering to a a moist temperament, then what you do is you do drier herbs. Yeah. So instead of for a cleric, you use fresh ginger, and for another temperament that is quite moist temperament, then you'd add a bit of dry ginger. Yeah. Garlic, fresh garlic would be preferable if you're going to use garlic, which something's a staple within our households, most of us anyway. Mint is quite cooling, which is brilliant. Fennel in your roast or in your stew, sorry. And the salads are brilliant for a cleric temperament, because salads are cooling and they're moistening, in general. This is the general quality, and this is brilliant. So if you're from hot and dry temperament, salads, greens, leafy greens as well, just similar to the sanguine, but cleric benefits from more leafy greens. Okay, so curry, let's say you're having some dinner and you again, a curry, you wanted to cook curry for this day, then beef is beef curry would be great for cleric because it's quite cool. Yeah, beef is a cool meat. So that would be a good option. Preferably non-tomato base. Tomato base, preferably. Obviously, if you can do occasionally, which is fine, but preferably tomato sauce in the beef is quite drying. It's quite drying for a cleric. So it wouldn't be the best option. And to have a runny consistency within the curry would be better. As I said, that consistency matters, increases in moisture. Adding some coconut milk in your curry is brilliant for cleric. It will cool you down. Or yogurt, which is fine, but yogurt does have the sourness does have quite a drying aspect to it. So coconut milk would be ideal. Fresh coriander, and if we're using curry, so most of us do use curry pastes and curry powders, then for a cleric, I would say mild curry. Curry with if you make your own curry spices, which is a really good habit to have, mashallah, then I would say don't use much chili, because these things aggravate your temperament. Chilies and having too much chilies without counteracting it with other herbs or with other cooling things, it will dry out a cleric. So try to avoid that. And if you were to make a meal, a hot meal, a spicy curry, very spicy curry to suit your family, and it just doesn't sit well with you, then you would need to add some cool spices. So add extra coriander, extra fresh coriander, add extra coconut milk to cool that down to suit you. Yeah. And let's say you have rice with that curry, yeah, rice with the beef curry, and these qualities or these ingredients I just mentioned, it's a good meal. Okay, so now we're going to move on to phlegmatic individual. And inshallah, even though I'm mentioning things one by one, I'm going through meals to suit each temperament. Inshallah, with information I'm giving you, I hope that you can incorporate things and add things at the end to suit the temperament that you're looking for, or edit and omit certain things. So for phlegmatic, as I mentioned, is a cold and moist temperament, right? So these people have a lot of moisture, stubborn fat that doesn't go, and they're quite heavy. They're not obese or always overweight, but sometimes they can be. And what they need to be heated up. They need some home heated warming foods, and this is where the ginger, and this is where the black pepper, and this is where the fenugreek comes in. Yeah, these are quite hot and dry, and this phlegmatic individual and benefits from a lot of black pepper. They benefit from a lot of green chilies. They benefit from a dry ginger. And fenugreek as well, dried fenugreek powder, fenugreek seeds, they benefit from this as well. This will dry this excess temperament out. It will, inshallah, help metabolism as well for them. So if they was to have oatmeal, I would encourage to add cinnamon, black pepper, ginger, fenugreek, in the bit on their porridge, and I would say cacao, so cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is very warming, and I would say add that in there, and some nuts as well. Remember, most nuts are hot. They're very hot, so I would say add some nuts. Walnuts are quite hot. Pecans are quite hot, so I would say the almonds are quite almonds are quite hot as well. They're not as hot as the rest, but they're quite warm as well. So if you're from a phlegmatic temperament, I would say don't have a lot of cow's milk. So like dairy milks are quite cooling, so I would say coconut milk is very cooling and very moistening, and it's the moisture and the cold that this person is suffering from that we need to keep at bay. So I would say if you're having oatmeal, maybe try and have almond milk. Almond is quite warming. and so maybe its milk would be much more preferable for the phlegmatic. You know, some nuts in there, which is a great addition as well. In terms of if they was to have eggs, I would say, you know, maybe do a, you know, curry omelette or curry scrambled eggs. So add a bit of so some onions, some garlic, some chili, green chilies, mustard greens. Yeah, very warming. Yeah, some leeks. These are quite good for phlegmatic. Yeah. As this for if they was to have lunch. Yeah. So they also have soup. So some soups that would be great for them would be red pepper soup. Yeah, red pepper is quite warming. That would be excellent for them. And like paprika is quite warming as well. So I think paprika is just a powdered version of red pepper. So some paprika, some leeks, as I said, mustard greens. Maybe you can add a bit of that in your soup. If you're having some protein in your soup, like some bits of lamb or beef, I would say lamb and chicken. They're quite warming. Maybe a bit of lamb. Broths are generally amazing for everyone, for every temperament. Quite healing and nourishing. But as I said, it's what you put in there that will suit you. So if you're gonna have broth, I would say, you know, add some mustard greens in there at the end, some leeks, some red pepper, garlic, chickpea. Chickpea is quite warming, very good for phlegmatic. Chickpeas warming and it's drying, so it will help dry out that moisture. For a sandwich, if they was to have a sandwich, maybe some tuna, kind of oily fish is quite good for them. So maybe some tuna, spicy tuna with maybe a peri-peri sauce with it, you know, peri-peri sauce added into it, maybe whether it's powder or it's like a liquid condiment version of it within the tuna. Some rocket, some roasted red peppers. This is good, you know. They're getting some warmth and they're getting some and they're getting things that keep the moisture at bay. Rocket is great for that. Bell peppers are cooling and drying, so it's good for that. I mean, sorry, warming and drying, which is good for that. I would say, yeah, I would say that. Remember the phlegmatic and the sanguine temperament. So the sanguine, which is warm and moist, and phlegmatic, which is cold and moist. They both have that excess moisture, isn't it? So I think I didn't mention that in the sanguine, sauerkraut, cabbage, you know, these type of food for the sanguine is brilliant. And vinegar, adding vinegar within your food. So if you're going to have a salad, put some vinegar, upside of vinegar in it. And when it comes to the soury, vinegary pickles, that's what I was looking for, pickles, yeah? We need some pickles. If you're from a sanguine, cold, warm and moist, so I'm going back to the first temperament that we did, add some pickles in your life. You need pickles, you know, especially pickling cold and dry vegetables, yeah, as we mentioned, zucchini, carrots. So these type of foods, like fermenting it or pickling it, is brilliant. Yeah, that vinegar is good for you, you know. Having water with vinegar would really benefit you. And obviously people had different spoonfuls of vinegar. Some people just do half a spoon, is too vinegary for them, it's too strong for them, and some people do a spoon, some people do a tablespoon. So for for a sanguine, the first temperament we just started with earlier, I would say literally like as much as you can handle would be great. Adding some vinegar in your salads, really good, because you'll get the cooling of the vegetables, of the leafy greens, and then you're adding vinegar to your salad, so you're going to get it drying as well. Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing some questions on the chat. I'll try to answer that after, inshallah. Yeah. But feel free to ask questions. I'll just like go through it later. Okay. So yeah, so the sandwich so I'm going back to the phlegmatic again. So the sandwich, as we said, some spicy tuna with peri sauce, rocket. So arugula, I think rocket is arugula, same thing. Yeah. Roasted bell peppers. Yeah, brilliant for that. So I'm going to move on to the dinner. Yeah, dinner. So if you was to make for dinner, if you was to have a roast, then that's good. Remember, roasting oven, it dries, it's quite drying, isn't it? It dries out the protein or the meats you're eating, right? Or the vegetables even. So I would say roast. If you're going to do chicken roast, which is warming, it's really good. So chicken is quite warming, and it's brilliant for the phlegmatic. So I would say add some oregano. We want to spice it up. Yeah, we want to have some oregano, garlic, vinegar, mustard seeds, rosemary, ginger. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And some paprika, some red chili, and olive oil. Remember, different oils have different temperaments, and olive oil is a hot oil. It's hot in its essence. It's a hot. Olives are generally hot as well, and the oil is quite hot. So olive oil is really good for a phlegmatic temperament. Have some olive oil in there. And steamed veggies. So what we want to do is raw. I know some people do eat raw vegetables, raw foods, but when it comes to phlegmatic, eating raw vegetables it's not the best option for them, So I would say steam it. Yeah, steam your vegetables, steam it up, inshallah. Add some black pepper, some cayenne pepper, some salt. We really want to like spice things up for the phlegmatic. They need the most spice up their life. Literally for their food, they need it the most, they've got excess mucus, they've got cold, they're sensitive, they're really cold, and this is what they need. So steamed veggies would be nice to have on the side if you're having a roast, and some salt and pepper. If they're having a salad, then I would say spice it up, add some olive oil within the salad, spice it up, some black pepper, some mustard, we need that spice for them. So if you was to have a curry for dinner as well, or a curry instead of a roast chicken, then prawns are really good. Prawn curry is really good for phlegmatic. It's quite warm, and it's quite warm, and I believe it's warm and dry. I think it's warm and drying as well, hot and dry. So that would be great. And you just add the same spices. So you add your curries, for example, the curry powder or the curry paste you'd have. Choose a spicy one for them, and obviously we don't want to completely dry the person out, so we'd have some moisture in the curry as well. We don't want to make them too dry. We want to keep their moisture at bay, but of course we have the consistency of a curry, which is quite thick. So for them, I would say the spicier the better, to heat them up and dry out. Yeah. So for the prawn curry that I suggested, I would say add some oregano, some curry powder, spicy curry powder, not mild, some paprika, and ghee. So butter is cold and moist, but ghee is cold. Ghee is warm. So butter is cold and ghee is warm because it's clarified, isn't it? So a ghee would be a better option for phlegmatic. Than butter. So use ghee as opposed to butter, or olive oil is a good option as well. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the melancholic temperament, which is cold and dry. So for the breakfast, if they was to have porridge or oatmeal, then oats would be good for them because it's warming. So oats is a good option. As I said, like barley would be better for sanguine. Oats is quite good for phlegmatic and melancholic, so oats is a good option. What we want to do is we want to warm them up, and we want to moisture them up. We want to make them warmer moisture, right? So we would give them so condensed milk is warm compared to normal milk. So I know condensed milk is quite thick, but that thickness, that heaviness is something that the melancholic lacks. They lack moisture and that fat. Condensed milk is very fattening, and it's very moistening, but it's warming as well. So warming, it's a warming milk. So condensed milk, some sort, maybe a natural alternative. I don't know. I know most condensed milks are just in cans, and people, we know that cans aren't the best form of packaging. But I haven't seen any. I don't know about you, Farah. I haven't seen any condensed milk that was quite good. That's made from organic milk. I haven't seen that. But
No,
that's
neither
the
have I. I mean, I know you can kind of maybe do it with a coconut milk. I have done that before, making my own
Mhm.
condensed milk, but generally, no, it's not easy to get hold of.
Yeah. So that would be if you was to like make condensed milk from coconut milk, it will be warming, much more warming than coconut milk. So condensed forms of milk are better. And any like, the thicker, the fatter the milk, the better for the melancholic. Yeah, they need that moisture. And generally, as I said, previous lessons, the melancholic person is quite thin. They're the thinnest temperaments of them all. So, and generally, we know that it's something that I've been growing up hearing, that someone's quite thin, they need, when you're thin, let's say you're underweight, you would need some fat and moisture in you, wouldn't you? So, nature dictates that we would need some thickening and moistening food. So yeah, some sort of enriched, thick, fattening milk. Um, um, almond is warm, as I said, so that might be a good option as well, just like the phlegmatic. Yeah. So maybe the melancholic would need more milk, and the phlegmatic would need less milk, because remember, they've already got a lot of moisture. Yeah. So that would be more milk for the melancholic. And
So,
we want to
Ruqayya,
keep
how about cream then, or is that too cooling for them?
cream might be cooling for them. But you know what? If you was to add some spices in there, then that might be a good option as well. So we need to experiment and see what works, what would warm. We want to warm it up as well, but we don't want to dry it out. When if something's too hot, or too warm, what will happen is it can dry you out as well. So we want to warm up the cold and dry person, but we don't want to dry them out. So yeah, cream might work because it's very, very thick and moistening. So yeah, that might be a good option as well. Creaminess, yeah. So pistachios, pistachios are quite warm and dry. So pistachio would be good. Ginger, fresh ginger, as opposed to, you could add, if you're adding cream, for example. I know it sounds weird having put ginger in oatmeal, but some people actually do that and it works for them. They put ginger powder, and I've done it personally and I love it. With ginger powder with my porridge, because I don't like the moisten, the too much moisture. I don't prefer that. So I do add a bit of black pepper, ginger. That's me, black pepper. That's something I would do. So the melancholic, I would say, if you're having cream, if it's very thick, I would say, warm it up. Add a little dash of black pepper, and not too much, because we know that black pepper is drying, isn't it? It's warming, but it's also drying. So I would say, just put a dash of that if you're having a thick porridge, and thick, creamy, moistening porridge. That's what we need for the melancholic. But we spice it up with maybe some spices like black pepper, a bit of cinnamon. Oh, cinnamon's brilliant for the melancholic. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Please add cinnamon in your porridge or your meals, if you don't already. So that's for the melancholic. For eggs, if you want to have eggs, scrambled eggs, omelette, I would say put some olives in there, some spring onions in there. These are warm and dry spices, yeah? Some olives, or not spices, sorry, foods or vegetables. Olives, some spring onions, some chives, and asparagus. Asparagus is warming and is drying, yeah? So think of, if you're melancholic, think of adding some asparagus in there. Turmeric, yeah? Turmeric is quite warm as well. So turmeric powder is quite warming and it's quite drying. There's a difference of opinion again, but I would say it's warming and I would say it's drying as well. That's my belief, yeah? Okay, in terms of soup, and last time we spoke, last talk I did mention the fruits that are good for each temperament. So you can add that to your oatmeal. I forgot to mention, yeah. Okay. Soups, and for those of you who missed it, please feel free to watch the videos, inshallah, and catch up with Nila. And I know the sound is quite airy, so it's not that great, so inshallah make use of the subtitles with Nila. Okay, so lunch. Yeah, sorry guys, if you can give me a moment.
Yeah, ladies, if you do need to go back and listen to the recordings, because in those previous lessons, Ruqayya does actually break down how you can, generally recognize one of these temperaments. Like she gives you the actual personality traits, just physical looks, this kind of thing. Really, really interesting. So if you do want to go back and listen to them, inshallah, and then if you do have questions that come from listening to that, you're more than welcome to reach out. I'm sure she'll be happy to accommodate them.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Faria. I had some background noise I had to remove. So yeah, I've done that. So so we said for the melanochonic temperament, we said some olives, some spring onions, some chives, asparagus, and onions are quite hot and dry, guys. So remember, onions are hot and dry, and spring onions are also hot or warm, let's say, and it's not drying. So if you're from melancholic temperament, you need to add some moisture to yourself and some warmth. I would say, like, maybe try and have spring onion as opposed to the normal white onions. I believe I think we all already may know that the white onions are much more hotter or much more drier than I would say red onions. Yeah, they're much more stronger, isn't it? So I would say that's much more hot and dry, the white onions, and then the red onions would be next, and then spring onions would be much more better option for melancholic in that order. So white onions is much more hot and dry, then it would be red onions, and then it would be green onions. Yeah. Okay. Soup. Soup, I would say good option for a good meal for melancholic would be squash soup, very warming, very moistening, would be a good option. Squash soup, sweet potato soup would be good as well, with some spinach. Turnips, I've never had turnip soup before, but this is an option. Add some turnips in your, maybe roasted turnips would be good, but it's quite drying as well. So no, maybe fresh turnips, yeah, maybe like stewed turnips and whizzed into a soup. That would be good as well. Artichokes are it's top food for a melancholic. Yeah, artichokes, and added some spices like mayoram, some thyme. These are warming spices that are great for melancholic. I mean, if we are from, like, as I know, certain background prefers certain spices, and by all means you can incorporate your own spices, but you need to inshallah counteract that with other ingredients you're adding to it. So if you're having a curry powder, curry spice, red chili, if you like that, and you're adding that to your soup or your curry, then remember that most curry spices are high in the spiciness. There's mild, there's very spicy, very hot. So remember, a cold and dry person in melancholic, it might be too drying for them, right? So you need to add some moistening. You need to add some moisture. So if you really, really prefer spicy curry or soup, then add some moisture in there. Add some moisture in there. So add some milk, so coconut milk, a little bit, even though it's quite cool. But because you've got a spicy curry powder, spicy curry paste, then it won't be as cool. Do you get my drift? So that would be, you need to kind of do some qiyas and some editing and some use your wisdom in terms of like adding and omitting. So if I choose to make curry today for my family, and we've got like quite a lot of melancholics in my household, yeah, then I would add a little bit of coconut milk or a little bit of maybe even, I don't know if I've never tried almond milk in it, but some sort of milk that's good for a cold and dry temperament. Add that to counteract that extra curry powder you used, right? So that you can enjoy and soak in that temperament. Yeah. Okay, so sandwich. If so, in general, like wholemeal breads, wholemeal flours are much more warming. Yeah, and white refined flours are much more cooling. So if you're gonna you have a sandwich. I would say use wholemeal or wholemeal flours, whether it's wheat bread or whether it's other alternatives. And you know, you need to, if you want to have some proteins in there, lamb is a good, like a lamb, maybe a lamb wrap, you know, a lamb wrap with some spices, flavorful, some spinach, some beet leaves. Beet leaves are really good. They are quite warming. And they're really, really good for to nourish the cold and dry temperament. They nourish the spleen. Beets nourish the spleen, remember? Yeah. Beets are really good, especially a cold and dry person normally may have, if they're obviously unwell, they may have splenic disorders. And beets really nourish the spleen. So and so do figs as well. Figs are really good for the spleen. So yeah, so I would say maybe a lamb wrap. Lamb's warming, yeah, and it's moistening. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant option for a cold and dry temperament. And liver is actually good. Liver, so organ meats are generally quite good, and there are some studies that show that if you have an issue with an organ in your body, eating foods, organ foods, so eating, if you've got a liver issue, eating liver may help with your issue, the liver issue. It may support it, you know. So organ meats are really good, especially for a cold and dry temperament, melancholic. Liver is good. Liver is a good meal for them. Obviously, really high in vitamin A. So having it, you know, having it maybe once or twice throughout the week is good. I know that for pregnant ladies, they're told not to have too much vitamin A. I know that does occur, that is said. However, liver in general is excellent for a cold and dry person. It's very warming and very moistening. And remember, liver is quite fleshy and has a lot of blood, isn't it? That's where all the blood goes, and that's where the humours are made, you know. So it's got a lot of blood, and that will really benefit the melancholic. They need some blood, you know. They need that warm moisture. Remember, blood is warm, moist, and liver provides that. Yeah. Yep, and as I said, we use those spices that we mentioned. So we use you know, some ginger, some black pepper, warm. We use warm and moist spices. Yeah. Okay. So for dinner, if you're having some curry, let's say, as I said, lamb is a really good option for them. It's not the only option, but it's a good option. Lamb, goat, goose, these types of meats are good for them. Having a bit of like a chutney, like on the side, chutney, I don't know how to pronounce it, chutney on the side, that would be really good. Having a, like, there's one that my friend made for me one day, and it was like she's also a practitioner. She made a I think it was parsley, mint, coriander, I believe, and those green chilies in there, you know. So all those herbs I mentioned have different temperaments. You know, mint is quite cooling. Mint is quite cooling, and parsley is quite warming, I believe, and coriander is cooling as well. And then she added green chili, and having it on the side is quite good. It's quite good, mashallah. So maybe having chutney with those kind of herbs would be good. Remember, the mint is cooling and the fresh coriander is cooling, right? So the only thing that was warming was the parsley. And then the green chili was in there as well to give it like a spice, to warm it up a little bit. So I would say don't add too much green chili for the melancholic temperament because it's too drying, but adding a little bit of it, you know, less, minimal, that would be good. Bay leaves, very warming and moistening as well. Fresh ginger, as I said. Cayenne pepper would be a little good as well. And ghee, using ghee. Remember, ghee is warming and moistening. So that would be good. Adding a bit of ghee, cooking with ghee, would be a good option for them. And even adding like a little bit of ghee on your oatmeal. If let's say it's not too thick, let's say you don't have cream, you know, and it's not too thick, it's not too overpowering, you don't have that much, you don't have those, you know, thick ingredients, you don't have any milky, suitable milks for the melancholic, and you use, let's say, just water that day, yeah? You know, perhaps you can add some ghee, you know, give it that warm and that moisture. you know, we need that moisture for the melancholic, and we need that warmth, you know. So yeah, Varia, yes, so that's what I prepared today for each temperament, and using the knowledge that, you know, that I went through, so using the points that I went through for last lesson to kind of like inhibit and change things to suit your temperament, or to suit different children. And as I said, like, that you may have children with different temperaments, and one child can't handle like a curry, you know, they don't like it. Let's say that there's a potential for them to eat that dish you made them, but because of it's maybe too dry for them, or maybe too spicy for them, or maybe it doesn't have that much taste, they need more spice, you know. And then you just have to literally add things on top, you know, for them, and or yes, to add things on top for them. So if it's a bit too, there's not that much spice, and that child prefers spice, then you can just, you know, add a bit kind of pepper, red chili powder on top for that child, and for the other child, if it's too spicy, then add a bit of yogurt, coconut milk at the end for them, you know. And it's all about inclusiveness as well, you know, trying your best to cater to the temperament. It doesn't need to be complicated, guys. It really doesn't. You know, it should be easy, it should be enjoyable, and it's just about playing with it as well, and seeing what suits you and seeing what suits your children and your family.
Allahumma barak. MashaAllah. I made a good amount of notes there. Yeah, amazing. Just if we just dive into the questions, okay, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know, alhamdulillah, we've gone over an hour today. I'm really glad that many of you have stayed with us, and I really hope that you benefited as much as I have. So Dawood was asking, I read that oat milk is very high in natural sugar, maltose. What does Tibb say about high sugar, even if they are naturally occurring?
Okay, so in terms of Tibb, natural sugar is not something that is frowned upon. It's not something that it's not a focus at all. I know in like functional medicine, there is a big this is something that has been made aware to the public and to us, that natural sugars, even that you need to be careful with. And that is true, because I am training in naturopathic nutrition as well, so there is a bit aspect of natural sugars. Certain foods, certain grains can be high in sugar, but from Unani medicine perspective, which is the subject today, it is not believed that having oatmeal or having certain, you know, natural occurring sugars should be harmful, but because we're adding spices, and these herbs and spices have energetics, they have ability to lower, you know, this spike of sugar. Like cinnamon, we know this is well known. So if you fear, or if you're trying to lower your sugar, then add some spices, add some cinnamon, add some herbs, add some cinnamon. We know cinnamon can help lower sugar, you know, when it's digested. So add some cinnamon, add some spices in order to facilitate the metabolism. But no, you know, in medicine, natural sugars is not natural occurring sugars like in oatmeal, or other grains. It's not really from my perspective anyway, from my knowledge, wallahu alam, it's not talked about much now.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And also I think things like a protein also help to kind of mitigate that the blood sugar effect on the body. So yeah, good answer, alhamdulillah. Another great question from Muad is raw milk a no-no for cold and moist temperaments?
Okay, good question, Muad. So I would say if you are cold and moist, do not have cold milk cold. Number one, raw organic milk is brilliant, mashallah. Raw organic milk is brilliant, very healthy, mashallah. But don't have it cold. Warm it up, add some turmeric, add some like pepper, add some cinnamon, add some spices, you know. I know certain cultures have certain shai is like in Somali culture, they do like a mixture, a spice mixture. Add something to warm it up. Now, I wouldn't say this should be, if you're cold and moist, I wouldn't say have too much, have cold, have raw milk regularly, something you don't have it all the time. But if you're having it, let's say you're having black tea with it, yeah, that heats it up. So it changes, it kind of warms up the milk. So it changes its temperament a little bit. Do you understand? So I would say definitely, should it be something that a staple that you should have it all the time, especially on its own? I would say no. But if you're warming it up, have golden milk, some turmeric. Yeah, turmeric is warming and drying. So if you add some spices and warm this raw organic milk up, then that's preferable. That's better for you. But no, I would never say, for phlegmatic, according to moist individual, do not have cold raw milk, cold, even at room temperature. I would say warm it up and add something to it.
Okay, Allahumma barik. Next question, what would you recommend for a diet for breastfeeding moms? Jazakallah khair. I believe that question was Aisha Abrar.
Now, so for breastfeeding, what we want to do is we want to nourish you, yeah? We want to nourish you because remember, you're breastfeeding, so a lot of your moisture, a lot of your nutrients is going to the child. You're sharing your body now, right? So obviously you went through 9 months of sharing your body, mashallah, barik, and raising a whole human being within you. And alhamdulillah, now that your baby, you're breastfeeding your baby, which is brilliant, Allahumma barik, kudos to you, may Allah increase you in it. We recommend breastfeeding in naturopathic medicine. This is something that is beautiful, and I want to say may Allah reward you, sister, for breastfeeding your child, having the ability to breastfeed your child. No, some people don't have the ability. I would say what you need to increase in this is nourishing food, so moistening. You need some moisture, you need some moisture. I know someone who's breastfeeding and I think they want some diet, and they didn't consider eating moistening things. They were eating dried foods. And what it did eventually is the breast milk became less, and then the individual lost too much weight. And they were giving everything to the child and they were nourishing themselves, and the quality of the milk decreased. So I would say have more moistening foods, right? And have cooling foods as well. Warm foods, but it depends on your temperament as well. So don't have it varies within yourself with how pressing well. But in general, I would say moist foods, and try increasing zinc foods. And when we have a baby, what happens is during childbirth, copper increases during delivery, during the last stages of pregnancy, and that can decrease zinc levels. So try to have some zincs, Brazilian nuts, shell foods, prawns, these type of foods, and please have some soups, some stews. I want some moisture. I want to see some moisture, inshallah. So try and increase some moistening foods, and some good fats as well. Omega-3s especially, to help yourself and the child's brain function as well. So moistening foods, I would say, priority.
Allahumma barik. Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, it really depends on the person, and also at the stage, because when it's a newborn, you've just given birth, you now need obviously warming foods, right? You need, and also very nutrient dense foods. And I think another word of advice here would be, to go to what is like in your culture. Eat those traditional postnatal foods, like go back to them, like ask, your grandparents and, your mums, those kind of things. Really go and nurture and nourish yourself with those postnatal foods, because they are amazing. And I remember my mom giving them to me, and she made a certain type for after I'd given birth. And then around 4 weeks later, she was like, okay, you've had a lot of heat from these foods, so now I'm going to add, I think she added fennel, and that cooled it down. So, you kind of balance your body up. But you have to remember, like, carrying that baby for 9 months, and then obviously now it's out, you've got, this empty space that does need warming up. And, just don't worry about things like weight and this kind of thing, because you've gone through so much in 9 months, and it takes a lot, like breastfeeding. And even, just in terms of, how you feel, like if we're not eating enough, like it tends to kind of mess us up, like emotionally as well. So great question, Ukht. Jazakallah khair. Layla's asking, what would you recommend for a young autistic child who's it's difficult to know their temperament?
Okay. In terms of that, in terms of autistic child, I would say you don't know their temperament. I would definitely say maybe see a Unani practitioner, or when it comes to the temperament, if that's what you want to know, I would say maybe see a Unani practitioner, inshallah, as they will probably be a better judge in that sense. But in general, for a autistic child, from a nutritional perspective, I would say omega fatty acids, I would say that, and I would say probiotics as well. There is a huge link between the gut and the brain, and there have been many studies to show that there's an issue with the gut microbiome with children who suffer from autism or anything of the like. So in general, we would say probiotics, probiotic foods, prebiotics, and good quality omega-3s for the child. How about you, Faria? How would you advise Layla?
I mean, one thing that I was going to mention is definitely if you're able to seek out a Unani practitioner, if you're able to, get in touch with Ruqayya just for consultation, because it's quite difficult to answer that. And I mean, even if you're saying it's quite hard to know his temperament, there's still going to be certain physical features, there's still going to be certain characteristic traits that a practitioner will be able to pick up on. I mean, I remember Ruqayya mentioning even the way that the person speaks, walks, interacts. And it's not just that. I mean, that is not the only thing. When you're actually going to a practitioner, they're going to also look at things like your tongue, the eyes, the pulse. So all of those things together, inshallah, will give you kind of a better picture if that's the route you want to take. But yeah, here we're not going to be able to go deep dive into that kind of thing. So I'll definitely say reach out to a practitioner. Jazakallah khair for your question. Just one last one, Ruqayya. So say, for example, if the person has a cold and dry temperament, and now they are, they've got a cold themselves, they're ill. Or say, for example, they're a person who is sanguine, right? That's hot and dry, right?
Hot and moist.
Hot and moist, okay. Sanguine person is hot and moist, and they've got so they need to be eating opposite to that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if they have now a cold, okay, how would you counter it in terms of your temperament?
Okay. So what's the person's original temperament?
Okay. So say if they're cold and dry, so they need to be having hot and moist foods, right?
Yeah.
So then how if they are themselves unwell, so now say if they have a fever and they need to counter that fever, do you deal with how they feel in terms of their symptoms, like because they're sick, or do you look at their innate temperament? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what we would need to do is we would need to see so we would need to look at the symptoms. Yeah. So if the person's got a fever and they're unwell, and the symptoms that come, so they may have other symptoms with the fever. It's not just the fever, it's not just the heat. Normally it accompanies other symptoms. So we would find out what the symptoms are. So if their symptom is if it's a blocked, congested nose, or they have they've got mucus, a coughing, wet cough, then that'll be indication that that there's a cold that entered. So their cold has gone in excess, which is kind of like made them. We all have natural mucus in us, right? We all have mucus for different functions in our body. Mucus, we have that phlegm, natural phlegm. We all have it, but in different levels. So when a chronic person gets this congestion and they're mucusy, this means that for them it may mean that the excess cold has kind of frozen that mucus, and made them congested. So what we need to do, we need to warm up that mucus. We need to warm them up now. Yeah, we need to warm that person up. Once we warm them up, we kind of need to dry them up a little bit. So we use drying herbs. But obviously for each case, it would be unique. We would deal with them differently. Even if two different temperaments had the same illness or same health issue, health problem, cold, whatever, then we would definitely deal with them uniquely, differently. And sometimes we'll deal with them similarly because we want to, they have the same exact symptoms, the same exact root cause, if you know what I mean. So yeah, so that individual would be, we would warm them up and try to warm them up. So yeah.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair, everyone, for being here with us this evening. And if there are any, topics that you'd like us to cover, then you please feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so Abdullah, you're asking, how can I know my child's temperament? I'm sorry, I'm new to this. No problem at all. But just to let you know that we do have previous talks on this, and Ruqayya went through exactly how you could figure out the different temperaments. So if you go back to my YouTube channel, the information will be there, inshallah, and the name of the channel is Organic All Round. I'll just put it here again. So Organic All Round. So there's quite a, we did around, I think, 3 other topics related to this. Just so you, how can you know a temperament, the basics of Tibb, a summary of it, this kind of thing. And we both do have things that we are offering right now. So if you want to head over to our Instagram pages and give us a follow, then you'll see information there. Ruqayya has a clinic in North London where she takes consultations and she takes on new clients, and she does also do online consultations. So please do feel free to reach out to her at the Serenity Clinic. That's where you'll find her on Instagram, inshallah. And my handle is at Healthful Wellness Coach. And inshallah, we will see you all here next week. I am holding a 5-day group reset. So if that is something that interests you, if you're really thinking, you know what, I need to sort out my family's eating, I really need to get things back on track, and I'm struggling just to know how to even do that in terms of what recipes to use, how I can incorporate all of this easily, then I have you sorted, inshallah. It'll be 5 days and everything will be provided to you, down to recipes, meal plans, even the shopping list. So that's not even the thing that you have to think about. And this is actually a reset that your whole family can do. And if this is something that interests you, then please do reach out, follow us on our Instagram pages. And if you go to my Instagram, and there's a link in my bio, it's a Linktree link, and it has like various links in there. It has the link for the YouTube channel. It also has the link to the 5-day reset where you have all the information. This will be starting on the 10th of January, inshallah, for 5 days. So I'd love for you to be able to jump on with us and the other detoxes. And inshallah, you'll be hearing from me and Ruqayya again next week. Jazakallah khair for being here. Jazakallah khair kathiran, Ruqayya.
Jazakallah khair, Faria, and Jazakallah khair for always for joining today. And please, I'm new to social media, so it would be lovely for you to give a follow, inshallah, on the Serenity Clinic, inshallah, and hopefully you'll hear from me soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.